Pull up a chair. This is Fluxtaposed, episode 225, the episode that almost didn't happen. We're recording on August 21st, 2018 on the docket today. IRL, another game that made us get caught up in what you're playing, featuring Mother. Danzig, anyone? And Wolfenstein. Finally, we'll close out the show with that community grab bag and the sweet, sweet, awkward finish. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And as always, enjoy the show. Woo-hoo-hoo. I'm no Glenn Danzig, that's for sure. And this is a podcast that, boy, what a trial of tribulation, a rocky road have we stumbled through tonight to bring this to you. I am Jason Lacey. Joined with me is Mr. Lucas Rose. How are you, sir?
I've been better.
Hey, we're not going to dwell on the shortcomings this evening because we know what we're here. We're doing this thing, and we're going to have a good old time doing it. Welcome to the show. If it's your first time viewer, first time listener, we're glad to have you here. The show streams live to YouTube every Tuesday night, 8:30ish. As you can see tonight, it is well past 8:30. Discord and audio and many things. You can't really do a podcast well when your co-hosts can't hear one another. So we had some weird things to fix, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we put on our master debugger toolkits, read voiceover IP for dummies, and we got it fixed. We got it figured out.
Until the next time it happens, of course.
Until we don't touch any settings and we turn this on next week and something else doesn't work for no apparent reason. Oh,
true.
I love it. Hey, that's all right. You know, it keeps you on your toes. It keeps things fresh this way.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. Exactly. So now, what a perfect time to point you to Patreon.com, because we are sponsored by our awesome supporters on Patreon. But I want to just, not just to plug the Patreon, because, you know, we've done that plenty of times. I'm sure you listeners or people watchers, you guys know very well that we do have a Patreon for Fluxtaposed. But I did want to at least bring attention that we have a new Patreon goal set up. If we hit the $90 mark, we're going to have I've called a Fluxtaposed AMA, where we will gather all the questions from you, the listeners. And then Lucas and I will sit down and do a blind answering, and we'll record the process and publish them out there on the interwebs for you to laugh at us and enjoy. So just a little thing, you know, maybe if you've thought about it now, hey, now's the time. Maybe you want a little $1 a month. You can help support this podcast and make us reach for the stars and reach our dreams. So
reach for the sky.
Reach for the yeah, exactly. So there is that. Ultimately, we want to hit that $100 goal. So then we're going to do giveaways every month, and I just want to be able to give away to all of you awesome people with much more regularity. Much like in the bathroom, you want that regularity. You know, you don't want irregularity. You know, you want things flowing. You want some nice movement happening. So that's what we're trying to bring to you, people, the community, some nice movement.
Where is this going?
Just let it happen. Just let it happen. I also want to bring to you a good friend of the show, Mr. N64 Josh. I've been a guest on his podcast a couple times. He does the Nintendo Powercast, and he does a Smash Bros podcast. He has a book out called The Gamer's Guide to Podcasting. Answers a lot of the questions you might have always had about how do I do this? What do I need to do this? How do I get caught up along the way? What do I do? And if you're interested in this, I believe you can get a discount if you hit up this link, which is at gumroad.com/a/1158051. That'll get you a copy, digital copy. I think you can get a PDF, or there's a couple other options there for you. we'll post a link up on the website as well. But if this
Sounds
is,
like
you know,
we
if you,
need to read it.
yeah, we might need to read it. And you know, I think this happens to anyone that consumes a lot of podcasts. Every once in a while, you're just like, hey, you know what? I could do a podcast, but how do I do a podcast? What do I need to do to get started? And I think everyone who has done a podcast, you run into a bunch of roadblocks along the way, and there's always a lot method, a lot of googling that takes place to how to overcome said issues. So there you go. Hey, we've got Netflixation on the horizon. First episode of the month, which we're just a couple weeks away. We probably should have done this a couple weeks ago. Once again, we kind of sit on it a little too long. Lucas, we are doing the vote. Am I correct? Is that
Yeah, I thought
that
so
seems?
anyway.
I think that seems to be a fun way to get everyone involved. And why can't I find my Instant Watcher link? Because I want it. There it is. There it is. I hate how I have two monitors, guys, and one monitor is a slightly smaller resolution. So like especially on my browser, all my bookmarks don't fit across the top. So
Ewy.
then they're in the little menu.
Get good.
So let's see. Actually, I don't want to go to Instant Watcher. Let me just look in. I haven't. It's always fun to pull something random out of your queue for something like this. So
I did mine beforehand.
yeah, well, I got lost in our troubleshooting hellscape.
That's
So
true.
let's see. Excuse me. I would like to add. Well, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you at all. We're just going to
Don't.
reveal. Don't do it.
Don't
All right.
even.
Our two options for you to vote on this next Netflix station. We have Extinction or Dig Two Graves. Those are your two movies.
It
I'm
better
not gonna tell
be
you.
the number 2, Graves.
I'm not gonna. Ooh, it could be. I'm not gonna tell you who picked one movie because we don't want you to go. Oh, Lucas is cooler than Jason. I'm definitely voting for his movie because Jason sucks. We're not gonna do that. So there you go. Dig Two Graves or Extinction. We'll put a poll up on the Twitterverse tomorrow, and you guys can do that, and we'll have the movies and we'll do the thing. So, with all this rambling out of the way, let's do some IRL. Let's get this show moving. Let's go, Lucas. What is going on? Well, I see the notes tell me that nothing is.
I was going to say nothing. I have nothing to talk about, so I'm going to give you the floor since we're running behind. I honestly, I really don't. So nothing new or interesting.
Fun fact, listeners, we're going to end the show at the same time we do when we start on time. So we've got about 17 minutes left to record it. So, yeah, the only thing I want to talk about, my birthday was last week. And as I had talked about, my wife had a mystery trip planned for me. And so I got out of work. I took a half day from work. We packed up the kid in the car and off we went. And we were heading east. So I'm thinking to myself, well, in terms of destinations, I mean, there's not a whole lot there. I mean, there's Lansing, there's Ann Arbor, there's Detroit. And I'm like, I don't think we'll go to Detroit. Then it became really obvious we were going to go to Detroit. I was like, well, surely, we've got Aiden. We're just going to go to one of the suburb areas, Northfield, Southfield, Novi. We're not going to go to like downtown Detroit. Then it became really obvious we were going to downtown Detroit.
Downtown Detroit.
And then as we were going to our final destination, we went through some rather scenic neighborhoods. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And we finally got to where we're
going on.
And we were right downtown. We were like literally 4 blocks from. So right in Detroit, they have what's I guess they call it the entertainment district. There's Ford Field where the Lions play. Literally right across the street's Comerica Park where the Tigers play. And now they have as we like to call it, the Pizza Arena. Little Caesars Arena where the Red Wings are at. They're all right there. So we were literally like 4 blocks from it. I could see it from our balcony. So we had an Airbnb, which was in this old building, which is what was considered like the little, I guess that the part of Detroit used to be called Little Paris or something like that. But I don't even know what type of building it would have been called. But we had called it the Paris Loft. So we had the very top part of this house, which I'm assuming probably back then maybe it was like a ballroom or used for something like that nature. So it was this top portion. It was, full apartment. I had a kitchen, living room, bedroom. The bedroom was actually a loft, a bathroom, but then it had this a private patio deck rooftop balcony, which was really cool. They had an awesome view of everything, and the Lions actually had a preseason game, so there's a lot of good people watching going on. But we went down, stayed there. And the whole reason she had the idea to take me there is she saw someone post online about this pizza place they're at. It's called Piesci, Piesci, like science. And this is probably some of the best pizza I've ever had. They I think they really do specialize in like vegan and like gluten free. And once I saw the special, I had to get it. I got what was called Tacos Modern Life. And yes, it was all the logo, with everything just like the Rocco's Modern Life logo. So I had to get it. It was a vegan pizza. It was phenomenal. Just had something that was really good. We got a cheese pizza right, and it's probably some of the best, hands down, some of the best pizza I ever had.
Wow.
And then we stayed there that night. And then we took Aiden to the Detroit Zoo the next morning and came back home. But it was just, it was a blast. And we haven't ever done Airbnb, so you feel kind of trendy doing something like that. And it was great. I mean, for the price we paid, it was an awesome place to stay at. We had a really good time. It was a good birthday. Really good birthday. And
now I want pizza.
You should want pizza. And hey, guess what? I've complained about this seat all the time on the podcast. I'm getting rid of it. I got a new one that's going to be here on Friday. Can't wait.
Paid for with your Patreon dollars.
No, I used no Patreon dollars for the purchase of this.
Nice job. Good job. I need to do that as well.
But Luke, since Lucas brought it up, that means he gave his blessing, so now I can use Patreon monies towards it.
That's fine. It's fine. Just do it.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. My computer hasn't broken 4 times in this pie.
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, I think I'm sure that's a misconception that kind of comes through all this. Like, I'd like to let people know that, your funds we're not profiting off your funds. Everything that the patrons have been awesome to give us has either gone towards our web hosting, our website, so any of the back
equipment
end
we don't know how to use,
the back end that powers the show, the mixer that we posted about. Lucas had some computer problems, so we had to get some upgrades there. And then we've given it back to you guys. We've done a few giveaways. We've surprised a few listeners with shirts and things like that. So it really, if nothing else, it just gives us, I would say Patreon gives us a way to help us continue to put more of our own money in there, because it kind of covers some of our basic stuff. And of course, you and I are both patrons ourselves. It's not like, we contribute to the cause.
It's true.
Just like everyone else. So if we expect other people to do it, why wouldn't we do it?
That's a really good point.
If not, I don't know. But hey, that was, again, I'm on a tangent. I'm off subject. My birthday trip, it was great. Had a good time. So now that's it. IRL, we're done. We're moving on. Let's talk the games that made us. Part 2. The Game Strike Back.
Yeah.
So for people that may have missed the first time, in a conjoined effort to kind of improve the quality of our show, we talked about, hey, what can we do? We always like to do our top 3 list. We had always wanted to do discussions, but we always kind of floundered a bit on what discussion points to have. And then we'd say, hey, let's rip off Netflix and talk about the games that made us. So important games from our past that kind of not just shaped our gaming interest, but maybe at least just impacted us as a gamer or enthusiast. We had done one of these so far, and now it's time to revisit again. Oh boy, yeah, I remember I was going to put all my notes in here. I didn't do any of that, so I'm going to have to free ball it. Lucas, please. Yeah. Why don't you go first so I can do some editing here?
Taken. All right. So let's see. What was the first one I did? I don't even remember. Oh, it was Dead Space. That's right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go back a few years into my formative years, so to speak, in gaming, all the way back to the year 1998. And a little-known company back then named the Valve Corporation was releasing a game called Half-Life. Now, for the 2 of you listening that don't know what Half-Life is, Half-Life is a science fiction first-person shooter game developed by Valve and published by Sierra Studios, remember them, for Microsoft Windows in 1998. It was Valve's debut product and the first in the Half-Life series, obviously. Players assume the role of Dr. Gordon Freeman, who must fight his way out of the Black Mesa research facility after an experiment goes wrong, fighting enemies and solving puzzles. And wielding a crowbar. Don't you know? Don't you know?
That's the sound it makes.
It was. Especially when you hit the head crabs and they come screaming at you. Now, I don't remember a lot about Half-Life 1, obviously. It's been, well, let's see, 1998. I didn't see what month it was, but that means we're on the 20-year anniversary of that game being released, which is crazy to think about. The thing that kind of set Half-Life apart for me at the time was, you got to think, it was 1998. I was coming off from, I think, the PlayStation 1. This was just after my PlayStation was ruined by my brother, which I told that story on another podcast. And so I had come back to computers as my first love. However, this game, for the time, was amazingly ahead of its time, I guess, or at least it needed a lot of computational power, so to speak.
Yeah.
I remember playing the demo for the game specifically from PC Gamer, I believe it was. But you remember when you used to get demo discs in gaming magazines?
Yeah, I subscribed to game players, and then when they became ultra game players, yeah, they put a demo disc in each month.
You look forward to it because we had dial-up back in those days.
I had one with Warcraft 2 on it, and it was amazeballs.
Yeah, and that's all you needed was just the demo because you could play that for infinite amount of hours, especially a game like that. So
they also had video content on this disc. They had like with their editors, and it was weird stuff. Yeah, and it was all done in QuickTime. Remember when QuickTime was the method of video delivery?
And you always had to update it every time you tried to play a new video.
Or like, remember when going to remember QuickTime movie trailers? When that was the premier site to go to watch the movie trailers on the QuickTime site?
Maybe, do you think it's still around? I feel like it should be. I bet it is. It's Apple, of course. QuickTime movie trailers. Now it's just iTunes movie trailers.
It's all on iTunes, I'm sure now.
Because, I don't just have YouTube to look at. I'd rather have to go through iTunes to watch a movie trailer. Anyways, yeah, so I remember I installed the demo, which I believe was the first, I don't know, maybe the first level of the game. Probably ending on a cliffhanger. I don't remember. I bet you could download it now, the original demo, somewhere. I'm sure it's archived.
Yeah.
And this inspired me because my computer ran the game so terribly. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that it was the first inspiration to go, maybe I should open my computer and upgrade this thing called a Vidya card and try to get some 3D acceleration instead of running everything in software.
I need those Voodoo 3D graphics.
Voodoo FX, yes.
Back when everything ran on an AGP slot back then, right?
Yep, yes. All the way until I was double checking to see if I still had the order from Newegg in my order history, but the last one I have is from 2004, and that was a 4X/8X AGP card from LeadTech, who I don't even know if they probably have been taken over by some other company, I'm sure. So yeah, this game ran terribly, so of course that prompted me to upgrade my computer, and then eventually I was able to play this game. And for me, it was the first time I really remember, besides maybe, let's see, when did Metal Gear Solid come out? I forget. For PlayStation.
God, I was in middle school, I think. So 99 or 2000?
98.
That's my guess.
98.
Oh. Close.
September 3rd, 1998. And of course we say, what the hell is going on? And DARPA chiefs and et cetera, et cetera. And so I don't know which one I played first, but honestly, this was one of the first person games that also wasn't just a Quake or a Doom where you're just kind of like running around. You know, you had that freedom of mouse movement so that you weren't just having to shoot in the general direction like in Wolfenstein 3D or Doom or something like that, where you're just kind of like, yeah, there's somebody above me, but I just have to shoot towards them and my bullet will automatically kind of shoot them anyways. No, this was very cinematic for the time. It opened very slowly compared to most games at that time. You know, usually you would see like a cutscene and then you'd be dropped into, all right, start shooting things. Whereas here you start with like a 5-minute tram ride through Black Mesa.
Like this game really focused on storytelling, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain this is like one of the first games that like did that, didn't have an opening cutscene. Like it did all of the story beats in game. Like you experienced everything firsthand.
Yeah. I don't know if it was the first one. I don't want to, nobody quote me on that, but I feel like for me at least, it definitely
first one
was.
That mattered.
Yes, that is probably very true. So yeah, you have that that slow build up and you're just wondering what's going to happen. And if I remember correctly, the demo leaves you off after you, as a scientist, push in some material into this big laser thingy that tears a hole open into the fabric of time and space, but mostly realities, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is the problem. When you talk about these games, Half-Life 1 and 2, you don't really know what the hell happened because they never finished the game or the series. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, and then things start ramping up and you get your crowbar, you get your weapons, and the feeling of the game just felt so smooth, and the gameplay itself was just really fluid and felt good. It was like a really well-crafted first-person shooting experience. Then you mix that in with the action and the storytelling, and you're trying to figure out what exactly is going on, and it's just, I don't know. It was something that wasn't quite just, here are some enemies, go ahead and shoot them, and then get to the end of the level, find 3 keys or whatever. There was a puzzle solving aspect of having to figure out. I feel like there was stuff where there was electricity and you had to figure out how to get past that, or
were there vehicles in this one? Or
no,
at all?
I don't.
That was
in
Half-Life 2. Like so much of Half-Life 2, we spent driving around that darn buggy. But okay.
Yeah, that's true. No, this was all walking around, and I'm trying to see if I can find some. Yeah, and there were like interesting NPCs with the doctors and Barney, of course, who comes around and helps you every once in a while. And yeah, it was just one of those first games that I really attached a memory to. It's been almost 20 years now, but I still remember parts of this game, especially spoilers for a game that's 20 years old, especially the end where the boss is a giant floating baby head skull thing, which looked weird. But I remember you get eventually you get transported to the alien world.
Yeah.
And that was all crazy. And I don't know, it was just all presented with this mystery that normally you would just see in television shows. Really, you didn't really have that with your video games. So
they were much more linear.
Yes. Most recently, this game was remade in the Source engine, which is what Half-Life 2 was made.
Black Mesa.
With. Yes, it is Black Mesa. Yep, I own it, and I do plan on going back and playing this eventually.
I don't think it's done yet. I think they're still finishing up.
No, they just finished it.
Did they finally?
It was the alien worlds. You're right. You could get to the part where you would eventually be taken into the alien world, and and for some reason they hadn't finished that, or it stalled, or they didn't have money or something. I don't remember. But then I think they actually got the good graces of Valve, and they just said, "Yeah, go ahead and finish this up." And I don't remember if they helped them or what, but there definitely was some issues going ahead with that. But eventually they figured it out and did release it. And so I'm hoping to play that again, because honestly, trying to go back and play this game, I mean, it's definitely a classic, but even Half-Life 2 is kind of difficult to go back to now. It's showing its age.
Anything after a certain period is hard, just because you forget, like, we're so used to playing, like, I'd say like the 1920 by 1080 is almost a standard resolution now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're used to, like, what back then, like, what, 640 by 480?
Yeah, most likely 800 by 600,
8 by 6, and then 1024 by 768 was like a real luxury. So I mean, going back into play a game like that, it's, especially on modern hardware, it's darn near impossible. So you almost need just those upscales just to fix that. And I think playing like the Black Mesa is a great way, because you're playing that old game but with some nice little touches. Would you say another legacy of Half-Life would be the modding community that came along with it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you have obviously Counter-Strike that came out of this game, which is one of the biggest games to ever have lived. And you also have Gary's Mod, or whatever that is, which
Gary's Mod
allows people to go crazy. Day of Defeat, Team Fortress.
Team Fortress spawned from, what was the Ricochet?
Oh gosh, not Ricochet, please. And nobody ever played regular, just Half-Life, but like Team Deathmatch or just regular Deathmatch. They always played one of the others.
You're right. Half-Life 2 Team Deathmatch was kind of cool because of the gravity gun, but that was it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would definitely, if you want to check out this game, definitely check out Black Mesa. Not only because of they just, back then you were running into the same scientist. He looked exactly the same, and he had the same voice and everything. So nowadays it would not hold up to our standards, but the storytelling, I think, is still there. And then of course the end, where because the G-Man is still in this game. The G-Man, which is featured more prominently in Half-Life 2, can be seen throughout this entire game, just standing around, walking through places that you can't get to and stuff like that. And this game was raising more questions than it really answered. So it kept you wanting to know more and everything. So I do think there is a good reason to go back and check this game out, especially now that there is a way to do that without the having to try and figure out, go on Good Old Games and get the original or whatever.
Right. Did you ever play any of the expansions for it, Opposing Force or Blue Shift?
I did play Blue Shift because that puts you in the heels of or in the shoes of Barney, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I just don't
Opposing Force, you're like the SWAT.
Oh yeah, because in the there's like the government comes in and tries to clean out the Black Mesa before the story gets loose or whatever. I don't think I played Opposing Forces, but I did play the one where you're Barney, but I don't remember anything about it, honestly.
Okay.
It probably wasn't really that critical to the story.
Would you believe that Half-Life is still $10? That's its going price on Steam right now.
It kind of doesn't surprise me, just because I feel like it's one of those games that goes on sale for like $1 if you wait long enough, but then the normal price is ridiculous. Also, it had a really awesome soundtrack for the time that played from the CD, so you could just put the CD or the game disc into a CD player and it would play the soundtrack if you skipped the first track. But it had an actual MP3 or whatever soundtrack as opposed to MIDI files or whatever. It was actual music. So, of course, dated for the time. So probably not as good now, but it was pretty good. And, of course, you always have that opening logo with that guitar or whatever and the Valve head guy.
Yeah. You know what would make for a fun project? Now I'm getting probably lofty here.
Oh God.
But what if, much like we did with the Dig, we did with Black Mesa?
Oh, you own it too?
No, but there are ways.
buying it on sale.
Yes.
I would be completely fine with that because, like I said, I've been wanting to go back and play it.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that'd be a fun game to stream. Would be
yes,
Black Mesa.
especially to go back and find out like what you forgot. You know what
Oh,
I mean? Like
yeah.
I remember chunks of it, but
Oh
it kind of
gosh,
all blends in with
I
Half-Life
remember
2.
nothing from Half-Life. Half-Life 2 much more cuz like Half-Life 2 came for me at a very like that's when like I've talked about on the show. Half-Life 2 was when I was like moving out of my into my first apartment. And that's when I played um finished Half-Life 2, started playing the episodes after that. So it's really ingrained with my memory cuz it's
Yeah.
tied to those emotional moments
Yep.
of my life, which is how I think a lot with how gaming works. Um
Plus, you're driving through the desert on a dune buggy, or not the desert, but the deserted areas, and then you get on that fan boat. Like, how can you ever forget that? There's just so
right?
many
There's so
transitional
much.
outdoor areas,
God, I wish that story had an ending. God damn it, Valve.
and it
If
never
you are
will.
never will. If you're interested in snagging Half-Life, you can get, like we said, you can buy just the Half-Life itself for $10 on Steam. Otherwise, it does come in a complete Half-Life bundle, $36.52. Or there's also the orange box that'll get you Half-Life 2. However, that's $20 and you get Half-Life, Half-Life 2. I mean, Half-Life 2, Episode 1,
And those
Half-Life
always go on
Episode 2,
sale.
Portal. Those always go on sale. And if you are interested in playing Black Mesa, which is I think we both can say we both recommend that's the best way to experience this game. That is still in early access on Steam, $20. So I think they are finally getting closer to wrapping that up. So
I think I got it in a
um,
humble bundle. Imagine that. I really do. So
I just Half-Life, and yeah, that's a really good pick. Like I feel like when you think back to like games that I think as if I'm going to say as a PC gamer, games that like you have to experience or I think are key moments in PC gaming, Half-Life is definitely one of those. It's definitely on an echelon of
yeah,
its
it's
own.
like a cornerstone of PC gaming. Like if you were to
Yeah,
say, here's 10 games that you have to play on the PC if you only play these 10, I think Half-Life is on the list, or at
yeah,
least Half-Life 2. So, but
yeah.
it is, yeah, it after that game came out, it shaped the first person storytelling like
Hmm.
shooter game forever after that,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, if it wasn't for games like Half-Life, we wouldn't have like some of the narrative, not just in PC games, but just in gaming as a
Like
whole. I think.
BioShock, I think of, because
Yeah,
you had System Shock and stuff like that, but then you can kind of see how, because System Shock, even the second one, is very, it's kind of like Deus Ex in that there's a lot of RPG elements to it, but you also have to like, I saw somebody saying that the original Deus Ex, for instance, while it has a really good story, um, it plays like a flight simulator these days with all the different buttons to interact with things and do different things. And so those quality of life streamlined improvements are kind of what Half-Life I think brought to. There was either like you're shooting everything or it's so involved that it's a little more complicated than it needs to be. So I think Half-Life kind of married those two ideas and
yeah.
brought the narrative to a more action-oriented first-person shooter game.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I like. Yeah,
that's enough of
Half-Life.
Half-Life, I think.
Good pick. Good pick.
Thank you.
Well, my game that made me for tonight is I'm going back to the NES. I tossed around some ideas here. I considered StarCraft because I had a lot of fun with StarCraft back in the day. I considered World of Warcraft. I considered Warcraft 3. But then I wanted to get something that kind of went back to my childhood, and I waffled a bit between this and NBA Jam because I have a lot of great memories in that game too. But I went with Punch Out on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Originally released in North America as Mike Tyson's Punch Out, as we know, is a boxing sports video game from the NES and developed and published by Nintendo in 1987. It's part of the Punch Out series, and it is a port of both the Punch Out and Super Punch Out arcade games with some variation. So I think I've only ever played the Punch Out arcade game. I don't think I've ever seen a Super Punch Out arcade. I don't like it. I don't like it much at all. But um, I've played both versions of this game. I only owned Punch Out because, as we know, the controversy that came with Mike Tyson forced Nintendo to re-released the game without his likeness. I think I saw that they paid him like $50,000 to use it for like maybe they only had a short-term deal, but they paid him like $50,000 for like a 3-year deal to use his likeness. So maybe it was only timed anyway. And then I guess I'd have to. I'm not too familiar like that, so I'm sure someone out there will educate me on the real reason why we have them. But
I'll see if I can find it.
I had always played Punch Out, and for me, a key thing about this game is I don't think I owned it. I had, my parents split up, were divorced when I was probably around 5 years old, and I had a Nintendo at both homes, different games, and I think I only had Punch Out at my dad's house. So I have a lot of good memories about playing this game with my dad, and so I think that's why it sits there, because it was like, back then I'm what 6, 7 years old. And I remember my dad was a corrections officer, so sometimes I'd only have visitation when he wasn't working, but sometimes he would have to go to work. And so I remember just trying to, I'd play it with him and see how far he'd get, and I'd try to get as far as my dad, and I just couldn't do it because he just didn't have the reaction time necessary or the timing then. But it's funny how, like, I don't know how things like travel. Like, I don't know if it was just trial and error because we didn't have the internet then, but my dad telling me, like, how do you beat Glass Joe, or how to beat Don Flamingo. You hit him once and then you just got to alternate with left and right hooks, and you just be able to land. You'll just be able to, because if you don't do it, it breaks the combo. But if you left and right, you can just do it ad nauseum until he knocks out. How to beat King Hippo, or like Bald Bull. How to time his charge attack just right to hit him in the gut to knock him down, and just little things like that. I remember that was just a lot of fun memories for me. Was playing that game with him. And then what continued that, it was just for me, it was just a game I always liked. I always liked all the characters are really colorful and stereotypes, terrible stereotypes in some instances, but it was just like, I've liked boxing as a sport. I've talked about before, like watching boxing with my dad, but being able to play that, it was always a fun game for me. And then walking away from it and then coming back to it as a teenager to this game was like, I had like a renaissance with classic gaming, probably in my like around 17. I remember when my mom's new house was being built, we stayed with a friend pretty much my entire sophomore year of high school. And I remember, like, I was like, remember in my room, I'm like, I'm going to beat this game. And sure enough, I just practiced up. And I remember this is one of those first games that I came back to as my childhood, and I was able to beat as a teen that I couldn't beat as a kid. And I remember that big sense of accomplishment. Like when I finally knocked out Mr. Dream, I was like, damn, that felt good, because he's an SOB until you learn what you're doing. And I would hit that plateau with with Mr. Sandman, Super Macho Man. I hit similar instances like that. And then finally to take him down was awesome. And I think even one time I got to the point where I think I had like a perfect fight again, where he didn't even like land a punch on me.
Dang.
And you feel, it makes me feel good, Yeah. So that's how this game resonates for me, because it's just so much in my own nostalgia is where it lives and does that. But I think that this was a fun arcade experience that we don't see in seeing gaming a lot. And I would love to have a new Punch Out like now. Like, I played the version on Wii, which was good, but I really like the series to return on the Switch, hopefully. And I've dabbled with Super Punch Out a little bit on my Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic, but the original is that's where it's at for me.
That's the money.
Yep.
I got some interesting factoids for you.
All right, let's hear it.
I'll give you the short version. First of all, you were right that Nintendo only paid $50,000 for Mike Tyson's endorsement. They got him while he was still on the rise. Before he became the undisputed heavyweight
like the one president, was it the president of Nintendo of America? Yep. Minoru Arakawa saw him at a match and was like so impressed by his athletic prowess that they did it. But yeah, he hadn't even won. He was up and coming, and he hadn't even won the World Boxing Council Heavyweight Championship yet.
So the reason why they dropped him actually was after Tyson's upset loss to Buster Douglas in 1990. They figured he was on the way down, and so they weren't. He was probably going to ask for too much to continue endorsing the game, and then they saw him lose and were like, okay, he's washed up already, I guess, which seems kind of weird.
I always thought it had something to do with like the sexual assault that took place that he was convicted of.
Yeah, this said that it says it's a common misconception, but it happened nearly a year before his arrest that the deal ended. So about that, so which I had always assumed that was the case too. So you're not alone in that one.
Other weird things about the game, you know, as a kid, you're like, why is Mario the referee? I don't understand. Why is Mario there? But he is. And then the game had great music that I always remember. I think we talked about this on a past episode of Fluxtaposed. There was an Easter egg or something that people found in this game, a trick that like if I don't remember
to beat Bald Bull.
Not if it's Bald Bull. Maybe it was, but it was I can't remember which specific opponent. But there was a character in the crowd when they did a certain motion, and if you timed it just right and didn't move at the same time, it was like an instant knockout.
Yeah, there's one like that for Bald Bull with a camera flash or something. But I think you're okay. I was gonna say there might be another one, but I don't remember for sure. For sure.
It's I don't know. There's some interesting depth that I don't think you expect to find in the game. Like yes, it is very much like pattern memorization, and your reaction time, but like the ability to actually like get stars too, to counterpunch your opponents, get the stars, land those power hits on them. Man, a lot of great memories of this game. Apparently, I'm looking at some other versions here. There was a gold version before the release of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! North America. Nintendo released the game in a gold-colored Famicom cartridge, simply titled Punch-Out! In Japan, without Mike Tyson on it. And it was a prize for the Golf U.S. Course Famicom Tournament in September 1987. And the final opponent in this was Super Macho Man.
Super Macho Man.
We had Punch-Out!, which took place after Tyson, after the license expired, and then we had Mr. Dream replaced with Tyson. Despite its short run as an NES cartridge, this is the version used in all Virtual Console releases, Animal Crossing, and the NES Classic Edition, which kind of makes sense. It's in don't see much else there, but man, I don't know. I think it's just got classic gameplay that I think you can still play this game today and it's still fun, you know.
Well, I know you like it because you have a T-shirt of it. That's got to tell you everything.
I do have a Punch-Out! T-shirt. That's true.
That's a mighty fine T-shirt, although it's Christmas green. So every time I see it, I think...
well, it's got the stars on it too, so everyone's like thinking it's Christmas. Like I remember, I was at a gas station once, and the clerk was looking at it. He's like, "Oh, I thought that was a Christmas shirt, but now it's Punch-Out! That's really awesome, man."
We should like hang out and talk about old Nintendo games. And you're like, I just want to pay for my sody pop.
That's right. Speaking of old Nintendo games, we randomly turned around during the trip because I forgot my wallet at home. And we were just down the road from my house. So we turned on a side street and turned around. And this house in their front yard had a flagpole. And I kid you not, they had a question mark block at the bottom of the box of the flagpole. And they had the Mario Castle, like the green skull sprite skull flag at the top of the flagpole. Like in Super Mario Brothers.
Were you going to jump on the flagpole?
No, I was like, let's be friends. Let's talk about games together.
They're probably weird.
Probably weird, just like me. So that's my selection, Punch-Out! I think it's a game I could still fire up today to play just because I love it so much, and I encourage you to play it if you haven't as well. It's a great game. Great game.
Is that on the NES Classic?
Yep.
Good stuff.
It's on the NES Classic. I still got my original. I still got my NES version too.
Is it in box?
No.
Still sealed?
We didn't keep boxes back then.
It's true. I wish I had that Nintendo game. I'd play it.
You could probably get it on the eBay.
Let's see.
What do you think the going rate is? I'm gonna
guess $25. I'm
gonna say 15.
Let's see. Punch-Out! NES. 15? No way. Let's see. First one, NES. Mike Tyson Punch-Out! Cartridge only. Tested. $18.99.
Ooh, that's close. Let's see, that's Mike Tyson's though. You get the other version.
You get the short version.
Oh, see, look! I found a pre-owned version, $14.99. I was right.
Look at
Hey, look, there's a version of Contra for $1,500.
This is the non Mike Tyson version, classic series, but it has the box and the manual.
Dang.
Nobody get on Nintendo Shack and start talking about this, or next thing you know, somebody will be buying it. Yeah, anyways, that is a good pick, sir.
I've always wanted to get some of the classic NES games, but man, they're hard to find and they're expensive. Like I've always wanted Mega Man 2.
Those are the worst.
Those are the always worst. Expensive. Dude, 427 says look up Superman 64. That's like the worst 64 game, right?
They pay you to take that.
I bet you it's expensive.
No way.
I bet you it's super expensive.
That's a Commodore. $52, brand new, factory sealed. $9.99 for just the cartridge. $9.49. $9.92.
I want to know why this version of Contra is $1,500. Like
typo. I call typo.
Is it in the box? Oh, is it a sealed box? Hold on. This is good podcasting.
I know. We're gonna just call it eBay hour.
I can't tell. It's definitely the box, the original box. So maybe that's part of it. Why oh my God! It is sealed. A sealed copy of Contra, $1,500. Wow.
No. Somebody is dumb. I mean, I guess if you're gonna try, you might as well try. But no.
This is why I'm glad I'm not a collector, man. I have no desire to own or possess or get any of the things.
I would only collect things that I had, like you said, Mega Man, Contra, things I had affinity for. But I would never, never. Dude says, "What a deal!" I'd
buy that for $1.
I would never just go and say, "What's every Nintendo game ever made?" I need a complete list of every game that was.
Right.
But. More power to those that do, I guess.
Right. That do. Do you want to play an overclocked remix?
Remix? Sure. Let's do it, dude.
Let's do it.
I'm going to roll.
This is the part of the show where we randomly select a featured remix from ocremix.org. The first 20 on the homepage.
Ooh, it was so close between the two. We got...
What we got?
It came up Castlevania, the song we played before. I'm spinning again.
God. It's always Castlevania, man.
It's always Castlevania. All right.
Castlevania.
Now I've really got to count. It's 20.
Good luck. Good luck, Connie.
70, 18, 19. 20. It's Shovel Knight. Have we played this before?
What's the song? Shovel Power? Yes, we have.
Oh my God, you're letting us down on the air. My God.
That was the one Sean Capri suggested for us, so we played it.
Oh my God. Well, at least I can just count up from here once I get back to the Shovel Power. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's Undertale. Gaster's Legacy. You won't remember any of you won't know what any of this means, but I do because I played the game and I'm cool.
Yeah, Karo tried. Nobody's cool playing that game. I gotta look here because I think we've got a lot of Undertale.
I don't think we've ever played an Undertale. Maybe once.
Really?
Yeah.
You wanna go on record for that?
I said maybe once.
Maybe one.
Maybe one.
Final answer?
No, because I feel like you found the answer.
We've played 3.
Have we really?
Yep.
Fine. No more wheel. I'm just gonna pick one. What do you think about that? Huh?
No, I don't have a problem playing it. I just don't know the music.
Now you
Glitter Bomb was the last one we did.
What were the other ones?
I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and look it up on the air. That's a boring podcast.
You looked up how many times we played them. How'd you know how many times we played them then?
I track that.
Per game?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because then I was like, well, if we've played Chrono Trigger 18 times, maybe we should probably play something else now.
So once they start getting up there, you're like, okay, time to add them to the list of tracking how many damn times we've played them. I don't blame you for that. I don't blame you one bit.
So the wheel has spoken. Our remix tonight comes from Undertale, a game that only Caro and Lucas have played, and the rest of us are losers because we haven't.
It's good.
It's called Gaster's Legacy. Our remixer is DS, and again, it's Undertale by Toby Fox, released on the 2015 on Windows. I think it's everywhere, at least on Steam. It's coming to Switch.
I was gonna say it's not on Switch yet because you would have played it if that was the case.
Apparently, Super Mario Brothers is in this mix somewhere too. It's classical, so there you go. As always, you can find this remix and many, many more at ocremix.org. When Lucas gives me that little wink, I know it's going to be ready.
It's not ready. Guess what?
But it's not ready.
This is just being like everything else we do, and not working. What is it?
Well, if it's not working, we're just going to put it in post, and we'll just keep going.
Hold on, I might have it.
You can just pretend that you listen to it.
Kind of like I pretend I listen to the show.
No,
I don't. That was unnecessarily
no comment.
Rude. It's not working. All right.
Okay.
Let's just continue.
Well, we're just not going to play live. Sorry, guys. You can look at our brand new overlay though, and see that.
No one even noticed we have a new overlay.
Nobody I think maybe they did. I think you should give them some credit.
Nobody deserves credit.
So, Lucas, you're going to fix this in post and then hopefully edit everything.
Trying to fix it right now.
Well, we're going to keep going.
We don't have
How about we do
good to talk about?
Some what you playing?
You're lucky I barely got that off in time. That's what she said.
Well, that works. Can you do me a favor and hit that button so I stop hearing myself? Because that'd be cool. Because it's very distracting when I try to talk and then there I am.
What do you mean? Why is that distracting?
I don't know. Lucas, tell me about the games and the things you've been watching.
I got it on there now. I know the secrets of what I must do for next time.
That's right.
Yeah, so really all I can say for the most part, I have a lot here, but it's basically a big old list of things I just finished. Mario and Rabbids I finished today. Handheld mode. Made that happen. So that was good. Not much more to add than what I've already said. It's a fun old time. I did use Yoshi more than I thought I would. He's nice because his I found that he was a nice mid to long range damage outputter person guy thing. So that was nice.
I never used Yoshi.
Yeah, I know. That's why I remember you had asked me that if I had him yet, and I didn't want to really use him but then every once in a while I didn't have any health for a certain fight, and and I was like, well, I'll give him a shot. But I liked him because he had the rocket launcher too. So he had a really nice powerful main weapon, which he also had Overwatch, which is nice. Or their version of it. And then he had the rocket launcher, which could hit more than one person. So he was useful in certain situations, but definitely not my main. More of a secondary crew that I would pull out every once in a while. But I could definitely see myself getting the Danky Kang expansion. I'm not really a huge fan of Rabid Peach or Rabid...
Rabid Luigi. That's where he's at.
Yeah, I like Rabid Mario. He's probably my favorite.
Yeah,
actually.
he's awesome too.
Although he's dangerous because he does a lot of area of attack stuff, and so you can't have your people anywhere near him. But he was probably my favorite. I'd actually get like a little statue out of him or something if I could. Yeah, Rabid Peach. I don't know. I know a lot of people love Rabid Peach, but
she was good. I liked her. I used her more than Peach.
Yeah, I could see that. Although Peach could heal whenever she wanted to, as long as she team jumped, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. But her weapon, having someone with a shotgun but also have Overwatch, is just a disaster. I don't know how many times a character moved and then she shot, but it waited until they were in line with another one of the friendly characters, and then she ended up shooting and like burning one of one of the friendlies, and then they went running off into
Same
death
team,
and stuff.
same team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I bring up Rabbid Peach because she's in that Donkey Kong expansion, but Mario Rabbids, I liked it a lot. I would give it a B+ on the scale of letters that I use. The next thing I beat was Deus Ex Human Revolution. Now, remember when I said, I only got like 3 or 4 hours to go and then I'll beat this on the last podcast? Well, what I didn't know is the director's cut also includes the DLC, the one DLC that came out for it, Missing Link. And when I got to that part, I was like, I don't remember any of this. And then I realized after looking it up that they sandwiched the DLC into the original game and basically made it like it was just part of the game for the director's cut.
Okay.
And I didn't like the missing. It's called Missing Link. I didn't like it because you were in the original game. You take a ship to a military base. In this one, you get woken up on the ship because you hide in a cryogenic freezer thing. You wake up on the ship and are caught. And so you get all your stuff taken away, including all of your upgrades and augments for your character. And you get them back at the end of the DLC, but I just did not. It was okay. Like, the story stuff was interesting. They were taking... It filled in the gap for the story as to where they were getting certain people for other parts of the story. I don't want to, like, spoil it, I guess, for anyone, but... It filled in a story gap, but the gameplay was just not great. But all in all, I finished the game. I'm glad I did. I didn't really like any of the boss fights at all either. The end boss fight kind of sucked. I don't know. It's just, it forces you to play in a completely different way than what you're used to. I was stealthing most of the game. And the interesting thing when I played through the game is it more and more started reminding me of Metal Gear Solid a little bit in the gameplay.
Wow. Okay.
Because you're sneaking around, you're going through vents and stuff, and I played mostly pacifist, and so I would knock people out instead of killing them while I stealthed around. And then, so I don't know. And then you also have like a stun gun and stuff. So just the way that the guards act and everything just kind of reminded me a little bit of that Metal Gear Solid gameplay loop. But I had a good time with it, and I'm glad I played it. I think it is regarded as one of the better Deus Ex games these days, just because trying to go back and play the original would be tough now, given the control scheme and everything. So
right.
I'd still recommend checking it out if you were interested. It holds up fairly well for the most part. The last game I completed was today, as a matter of fact. I played the last episode of Life is Strange. So I have completed all of the episodes in that game.
Are you gonna get any of the other stuff?
The other stuff? I will. The game completely changed after, or I should say the story completely changed after the third episode. There was a plot twist. There was more problems arising because for the most part, everything was sort of like, let's figure out how to get through this with the power of time, using the time power. And then you would figure out how to get around something. But then, do you care if I spoil the game for you?
I'm probably never going to play it.
Okay. So, spoiler warning for Life is Strange. If anybody's listening, you're going to want to hop ahead a little bit. So, Life is Strange, the whole point was like there was this high school conspiracy thing going on, but then also you gain time powers at some point, right? Well, the time powers thing is a problem because the game kind of relies on chaos theory, in that every time you keep going back in time, it's causing more and more environmental disasters to crop up. And basically it's found out that the tornado storm thing that's coming after the town is unavoidable, and it's all caused because the main character keeps going back in time to try and figure out the right path to make everything okay. There's a point where she goes back and tries to save her friend's dad on the day that he leaves and never comes back, basically due to a car accident. And that causes all sorts of time shifts, and it just ends up being more and more of an issue. And she realizes at some point she just has to be okay with certain things not being perfect in her timeline. And so
I think there was a movie called The Butterfly Effect.
sort of, yes, very similar in ideas. And so it gets really dark in the high school conspiracy side of things. You figure out that your teacher was the one who was basically drugging women and taking pictures of them while they were basically couldn't defend themselves, all drugged up and scared and worrying for their lives. And he ended up killing some of them. It's a very crazy story, but it was very good. It reminded me of a movie, very cinematic, and I enjoyed the story. I thought it was really good, and I will play the rest of them eventually. Yeah, it wasn't quite enough to make me get emotional, but I definitely found it interesting, and it was what kept me playing was the story. So it was I liked it a lot more than I thought I would when I started it. So
that's good though.
Yeah, and so now I'm free to possibly maybe start playing this now that it came in the mail, he said as he held up Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch.
I'm sorry.
What are you sorry for?
That's the next game you're playing.
Why are you sorry?
No, it's a fun game. It's fine. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you have some opinions on the matter, sir. I'm going to find every single moon.
I thought I was, but I haven't gone back into it since then.
Well, I probably won't either.
It's got good music. It's a perfectly fine game. I just don't. It just didn't totally
click with you.
Yeah,
well, it didn't have multiplayer, so that's a strike against it for you immediately.
Right? Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I've talked about before I got the Switch how you don't get games like this on the PC. Really, the closest thing now is A Hat in Time, and I just happened to get that through Humble Bundle, which I suspected would happen. So that's why I didn't buy it. Otherwise,
Lucas, you get all your games through Humble Bundle.
I know. Although now that IGN owns it, they almost never do actual game bundles that anybody wants. They do for the monthly, but not for the bundles that you just buy on demand. All right, real quick, I'll get to the other things. So I've been trying to quickly get through my DVD queue for my free Netflix month, my Netflix DVD month. So Mother is one movie that I didn't get to see with Movie Pass. So I rented this one. Holy cow, what a weird movie. It's really good. It's basically a huge allegory for something. I'm not going to ruin it. It's messed up. And there are parts where I'm just like, why didn't this just happen? Why wouldn't you just do this or whatever? But if you can kind of like suspend your disbelief for a second, it's almost like a grim fairy tale or a parable or something like that. It definitely has a beginning and an end, and I felt like it concluded in a satisfying manner. I don't want to get into it more than that, but Jennifer Lawrence did well, and the guy who plays the killer in Country for No Country for Old Men, I don't remember his name.
Javier Bardem.
Yes, how could I forget? He does pretty good too. So it was an interesting movie. It was a visual affair to be sure, and I'd give it like a 4 out of 5. I think is what I gave it for my Netflix stars rating
nice,
thing.
Okay.
And then Shape of Water. This is a really interesting movie. It's definitely not going to be for everyone. Of course, it's by one of my favorite directors, Guillermo del Toro. And the reason why I like him is that he's a very visual guy. He thinks about how colors and setting and atmosphere all tell a story. And he's always got a really good eye for that type of thing. And that's why I appreciate his directing style. He can be a little hit or miss sometimes, I think. Especially, I wonder if his... being a Spanish director might cultural differences and stuff like that. But for the most part, his films always feel like fairy tales to me.
Yes.
And this is definitely no different. However, where the other ones are just kind of darker, this one is a little bit more adult as well as being darker. In that it's not just a little bit scary. It also deals with love and sexualization and stuff like that. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but this is what I'll say.
Fish sex, huh? Hot, right?
Yes, there is fish sex in it. And that leads me to my point. On paper, if I were to explain this to you, it shouldn't be a good movie. It shouldn't make any sense at all, really. But the performances are awesome. The story is just, I don't know. It's, when you get those stories that are so focused on telling you a certain thing inside of a world that seems bigger than what they give you, that it just works because they don't try to make it a bigger story than it is. It just tells you the story, and it's very straightforward, but it ends up being really good because you get lost in that particular story thread, and it just works. And for Shape of Water, that's the case. I can't really say much more than that. So, if you can, yes, it has fish sex in it, but if you can get around that, it's actually a really good movie. I gave it a 5 stars out of 5, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
Probably one of my top, I don't want to say top movies ever, but definitely my top movies lately that I've seen. Probably top 10, top 5, maybe even. I'd have to think about it more than just offhandedly saying that, but yeah, for sure. So that's what I've been playing.
There you go. For myself, we continued. Well, boy, we continued our Make Us Better PSVG collaboration streams of Overcooked 2, but we hit a little bit of a snafu last weekend when all of a sudden our entire game progress is gone. I haven't gone back to check the video because, no offense, Donnie, you were drinking. You might have just,
that was my question
and hit a menu. So I haven't checked the video on demand. If that's not the case, though, then all of a sudden all our progress is gone, which I will gladly replay it because I love just playing Overcooked. I have a lot of fun just playing Overcooked, and I just want to play any excuse to play that game. Please let me play it.
It's a little different each time too. I mean, you're always starting in different positions and all that stuff. So it's not, just your task is the same, but it can always play out differently no matter what.
Right. So I don't know where the kitchen stands at this point. Hopefully the chefs will not abandon ship. Runner 3 I had been playing, but I realized how brutally hard and unfun that game is. So I kind of shelved that to the side to focus on Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, which I did finish this afternoon. I finished the single player story. Now there is more content that you can do after that. There's like a series of assassination missions you can do. I'm not going to, I only have the game for 9 more days. I don't really want to do that. I kind of went back and forth on this a little bit because I think at first the story didn't quite grab me, but there are definitely some emotional highs and lows throughout the story. I think I like the overall campaign maybe a little more in the first game, but I like what this one does as well. I will say that there's no, I guess this is growing up with games the way we expect this. You expect these certain boss encounters. This game doesn't really, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, this game doesn't really have one in a way.
Really?
And the ending is while it's very rewarding, it's very different than I think than what you'll experience in the last sequence and a lot of other games. But it was very rewarding once it happened. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm happy that this series still exists because it makes me happy that Wolfenstein's still around and relevant. Playing it on the Switch was a lot different than playing on PC. It still felt good. I got kind of used to the motion controls a little bit. I never played it handheld. I always would play it tabletop with the Pro Controller. It's interesting what Panic Button has done, like the tricks they have to get this game to work. Like I've heard before, in word of mouth from other people, for instance, walls that aren't aren't rendered, things like that to save resources. But you can definitely tell, you get certain closeness to an enemy, very well textured, but you back away just a little bit and it's completely mundane and blurred. Like it has, you'll notice that when you're playing the game, it has a very like blurriness to the visuals, which is just the fidelity's turned down, and just due to the due to the resources of the Switch. I mean, it still looks okay. It's not going to look as good as on an Xbox, but I still had fun with the game. I still enjoyed it. I mean, am I going to get probably everything I could have possibly got out of it? No, but that's just due to the nature of having it on a limited basis. But I got through the story, and it was a really enjoyable ride. I will say one of the drawbacks I have for this game is like, man, the cutscene sometimes it's just like they just keep going, and they really just like you just like you like the action and the gunplay in this game is really tight and entertaining. But then you get into like these big story beats, and it's like I don't want to. I just want to get back into the game, get back into the action, and like. Finally, like I skipped one of the last ones because I was just like, man, they just keep going. I just want to play, So I skipped the cutscene, which I don't ever usually do. And so I feel like that was a little detriment to the game. And also, in that same light, you're often put back into this hub area on this U-boat that you've captured, and that place is just confusing as hell to navigate. And sometimes I spent way too much time wandering around looking for where I was supposed to be going. It just took up a lot of time, which I would rather be playing. But overall, it was a really positive game for me. And lastly, I didn't mention it, but Lucas, I think you'll be glad to know that Jessica and I started watching Parks and Rec.
Oh, that is a good one. I giggle.
We're almost through season 1.
Wow, that's pretty good.
There's only 6 episodes. Come on, it's not that.
Oh, I forgot. Well, I forget that. So, but isn't it an hour long? I think.
No, it's only like 23 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, then I'm not impressed anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I went back and I have reviewed the footage. Now it's hard to see.
Oh.
Yes, of Overcooked. It's hard to see because, of course, our video is covering the important bits. But it appears to me that when Caro lost internet and we were waiting for them to show up, he goes to load game and it already shows tutorial there. So I don't know, like he wasn't wrong. He hasn't loaded anything. We hadn't done anything yet. He goes to load game and it says tutorial. No stars.
So something happened when Caro dropped out that it glitched the game somehow. And
my only thinking is maybe when we get 4 people in again, it will.
Oh yeah,
load that back up.
Yeah, you might be right. That's a good point.
Because otherwise, you would think it would show the 4-person. How far we've gotten.
Yeah, so that's a good point.
Maybe it changed because then when he goes out of it and then opens it, because at one point he closed the whole game and then opened it again, it shows that same tutorial. So I'm wondering if it's because he's never played it single player, and then with 3 people, because the scores would be different. All may not be lost.
Oh, that makes me happy. That's a good reasoning. That's actually some good reasoning. Well,
at the very least, we can say it wasn't Donnie's fault.
Yeah, that's right. Donnie, you're saved. Shall we do some Dan Anthony grab bag?
Sure. Man on the street.
Man on the street. Dan Anthony's back. He has a great article from us from Gizmodo. And all he says was guys and all exclamation points.
Guys.
Your headline. Museum visitor falls into a giant hole that looks like a cartoonish painting on the floor. And yes, it does. It looks like it just looks like a big cartoon black painting, but no, it was actually a hole.
Oh
like
my
a real
gosh.
life Looney Tunes cartoon.
It seriously looks like something that Wile E. Coyote would like break out of an Acme box and then just slap on the ground, and then it turns
like a
into
real life version of a Looney Tunes cartoon.
A
visitor to a Portuguese museum was injured last week when he stepped into an art installation resembling an inky void.
It is very dark.
It's called Descent into Limbo. It includes an actual 8-foot hole that's painted black, so it appears to have no depth at all.
Why don't they have it? If it is a hole, why is there
no? There's no. Yeah.
And how far down?
8 feet.
Did he die?
I don't think you're gonna die from 8-foot drop, but you're good if you're not expecting it. Though the Descent into Limbo installation was reportedly surrounded with warning signs and staffers warning visitors not to get too close, there was no barrier around it. He was in his 60s. He was able to step into the hole. Isn't known. How he was able to step into the hole wasn't known, but he was briefly hospitalized for the 8-foot fall.
Okay. Well, he is 60, so that probably would do you in at 60, possibly.
Yeah. I broke my hip.
Help! I've fallen to an inky void. I can't get out.
So I love it. Nice work, Dan. And he also adds, he's playing double duty today. He provided a Twitter snapshot of the long-awaited NBA 2K debut of Haley Joel Osment is finally here. And yeah, they must have custom made a character, and they put Haley Joel Osment in the game and Michael Rappaport for whatever reason. They're in NBA 2K.
Michael Rappaport.
So I don't know why. There you go. You have it. Thank you, Dan. We love getting this stuff from you.
That's content creation right there, is what it is.
That's right. He makes better content than we do.
He should start a podcast.
Dan should start a podcast. I'd listen to it.
It should be called Dan Started a Podcast.
Dan Anthony, a clone from Ed.
D'Anthony.
Well, I think that's going to do it for Fluxtaposed. I didn't think we'd ever get here because we barely got started, but we made it. If you're listening at home, you should have joined us live because we had a brand new overlay courtesy of Lucas Rose. It looked so sweet.
It's true. It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
It's living art, but it ain't a hole in the ground. So that's
right. Join us every Tuesday night live here on YouTube. Watch the show, or you can catch us, and it hits RSS feeds. Sometime on Wednesdays.
If you're lucky.
But as always, I want to say thank you to all of our patrons, but special thanks to our Arbiters of Awesomeness, Kevin Austin, Kyle Heyman, Edwin Calla, Tyler Rollin, and Tom Servo, and of course our Executives of Excellence, Josh Barbone, Dan Anthony, and Sarah Renee. Thank you so much for your support each month. Check out patreon.com/Fluxtaposed if you'd like to join on the bandwagon. Thank you for joining us in chat. Dude 427 was here. Tom Servo was here. It's always a weird night when we start late because it all screws everything up. But we appreciate you guys hanging out. It's going to do it for Fluxtaposed this week. We're going to be back next week. Don't forget, look out for that Twitter poll. We'll get Netflixation picked. And hey, have a good one, guys. We'll see you on the next one.